to do that, just put your questions into the chat and we'll try to get through all of the questions. So in terms of a little refresher, in case there's anyone new on the line that hasn't joined one of these before, we're the Packaging Forum and we've been around about 20 years. We've got about 250 members total, but the soft plastic scheme is a big chunk of that, about 190 in total. And I think there was going to be about 40 or 50 joining this call today. Not much change in terms of our board or our scheme managers, but we did have a new CEO, which is me, Craig Miller, since the 1st of September last year, and a new independent chair, Victoria, who started around the same time. So that's really the team. What we've done as an organisation since about September last year is that we have refreshed our strategy for the Packaging Forum, and cascading from that, we've refreshed the scheme strategies as well. We really took a look at what parts of the circular value chain we were good at and what parts we actually want to put more effort to improving. And why is that? That's because we've set ourselves a new vision and purpose of leading New Zealand to a circular packaging future. We want to focus our strategic priorities to achieve that on operational excellence and product stewardship, on thought leadership and advocacy, and on collaboration, education and communication. I won't talk through all that, and I'm sure we can share the slides after, but I'll just point out that this piece of work that we're doing with Valpak on behalf of members to help members is really about trying to develop deep industry data and research as a circular enabler and hub for members. So we see this as a great value add, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Valpak and getting them to explain the work that they're going to help us all with. But it's also about unlocking and helping deliver optimal circular solutions by really building up that data picture for the members. And then lastly, by doing this work, we're really, in a way, preparing ourselves for mandatory EPR. So by mapping out, really accurately what tons are being placed on market, that's also going to help us as an industry steer towards optimal policy and regulatory outcomes. So that's a little bit of background and introduction from me. I'll now hand to Lynn.
Afternoon, everyone. So this is just the soft plastics recycling scheme strategy that obviously feeds out from the Packaging Forum's overarching strategy, and each of the schemes has got their strategic plan as well. Again, not going to go through this in any detail, and it will be in slides and shared with you. But from a soft plastics perspective, the key areas for us and the reason why we're working with Valpak to conduct this work is having a robust reporting methodology is something we've been lacking. We are have applied to the Ministry for the Environment as a priority product for soft plastic packaging. And within that application, we need to have some, understanding of the tonnes placed on the market and a robust reporting system. And that will allow us as well over time to move to a much more equitable funding structure where people pay based on what they place on the market rather than the system we've had since we started soft plastics over 10 years ago, which is a rather blunt instrument of membership fees. So in the next slide, I'll just give a little bit more background to how we got to today. So many of you will be aware of the work that we did at the Packaging Forum and in conjunction with the New Zealand Food and Grocery Council and as a co-design of a plastic packaging product stewardship scheme. This work and the recommendations have been submitted to the Minister last year, and Valpak were part of submitted an RFP to the PPPS work to conduct the first tranche of work that we did, and some of you again participated in, which was looking at the plastic flows in New Zealand. So what's placed on the market, what's recovered and collected, what's exported, and what's going to waste. And as many of you will know, we didn't have very accurate data at the time. So a lot of it was estimated, particularly in sectors outside the food and grocery sector. We lack a formal national reporting system. So, of course, in Australia, APCO have got their reporting system. And if you are a producer with over, I think it's 5 million Australian dollars turnover, you're required to report your packaging data annually. And what we do know from the work that we've done is our members here in New Zealand are quite varied in their reporting capability around knowing what it is they place onto the market. So all of that tells us that we need to have a robust system. And so we started a conversation with James and Tom and the team at Valpak about how they might support us in this work. And knowing that they had worked with us through the PPS programme, it's a relationship we've been developing over time. So I'm really pleased, and it's very early in the morning in the UK, and they haven't had the luxury of watching the football like we may have had the opportunity to do today, with the All Whites performing very, very ably, I think, against Iran. But introducing, Tom is going to take us through the presentation for Valpak. He's supported by Isabel and by James. And as Craig said, we'll take questions at the end, either through raising your hand or putting your questions in the chat. Over to you guys.
So I'll stop sharing and hand over to Valpak.
Perfect. Morning, afternoon. Thanks everyone, and thanks very much for having us. Hopefully you can see my screen, which I'm now sharing. So just a very introduction myself. So my name's Tom Hare. One of the directors here at Valpak. I've been here 19 years for my sins, so done lots of different jobs within Valpak. So going to spend a little bit of time this morning, or sorry, I will work out which time zone I'm in a minute this afternoon with you, in terms of who we are, how we fit, some of the work that we've done with the packaging forum in terms of the form design, and then some tools to help you kind of do that too. So it's going to be a kind of a high level overview of what we're kind of asking for and kind of why. But obviously, as time evolves, there'll be sent information guides, frequently asked questions, and kind of all that help on hand as well. We've actually got Marcus on the call today as well, who's going to be the project manager. Marcus is literally fresh straight from holiday straight to this call, so thank you, Marcus, for being on the call. But Marcus will be kind of the project management from the UK side too. So we've got all the team assembled. So in terms of who Valpak are a packaging scheme in the UK. We're the largest packaging scheme in the UK. We've been around since 1997. And our kind of role, if you like, is primarily to help people be compliant with the legislation in the UK. It's a very fast changing legislation in the UK. Recently, about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, we introduced our own EPR system. So we went under a massive change there with all of our 2,000 odd members. We all had to change how they were data reporting. All has changed their fee structure. So ongoing kind of process in the UK. Our role is to help people understand the regulations, help people comply with the regulations, and then help people pay their bills to the relevant authorities in the UK. How do we kind of do this? Well, team of 400 odd employees helps to kind of go through all this information, but we've also got, which is one of our proudest kind of assets, if you like, we've got a database that's got 65 million packaging SKUs in it, which is going to be very useful for when we kind of come to one of our kind of tools that we're going to kind of offer with the packaging forum to yourselves. So it's an ever-changing database. This is why is it important for kind of checking our kind of our members' data, checking kind of what suppliers that we go out and ask for weights or are giving us to make sure it's accurate. But also it's really important like Lynn said, for some of the work that we do for the kind of government organisations, not just in the UK but around the world, to help actually work out, okay, well, what is the volume of packaging placed on the market? If we were going to introduce a new legislation, how much actual material is on that market? Well, having all of that data is a really powerful tool to help give the governments or the authorities or wherever it might be the kind of that insights. Does it mean we can kind of help kind of write policy? No, but we can help influence it, and we can influence it by doing what we do best, which is collecting data and providing hard evidence of the data. So it's something that James's team do a lot on lots of different things. We've just had, to give you a very, very brief example, we've just done a piece of work on wet wipes in the UK. The government were thinking about banning kind of wet wipes in the UK. They didn't have a clue how many wet wipes are on the market. They had a figure, and they published that figure. However, the government kind of got James's team to kind of just double check that figure, and it was way off. Way off by the billions of wet wipes that was placed on the market compared to what the government thought. So having that data can really help make sure government have all the tools they need to kind of do make the right decisions with that. So really important. And just one thing, we're an environmental kind of conscious business too. So, we're very, very proud of our EcoVadis standing of platinum. The second year we've had platinum too. So we kind of do practice what we preach, but also take the environmental very seriously. We are part of Economy. Now Economy are a very large global organization which kind of embraces circular economy. Now, why am I telling you about Economy? Well, it's just purely because Valpak legislation in the UK, but we also help people comply all around the world. Economy have physical presence all around the world. Now, why is that? Why is that useful? It's because yes, we can do all the great research from our desk, but actually having physical presence, we've got boots on the ground. We've got kind of people who can go and look what can be recycled, not be recycled in those countries. We've got people who can have conversations with local governments or local ministers. So we've kind of used all of that knowledge. Why do we use all that knowledge? Because then we can inform our membership. We can form the kind of what's coming. The change in the UK happened 2 years ago. Well, it's been around in Europe for 15 years. We're now doing exactly the same for America. America are kind of copying all the best bits of what's going on in the Europe packaging scheme and adapting it to kind of their regulations. So having all that knowledge, having the what's around the corner, if you like, what's coming up, getting people prepared, it's a really powerful tool to kind of make sure there kind of is no nasty surprises. Because if I'm honest, as an organization, we don't like surprises. We'd much rather give as many years notice if we can of look, this is coming, be warned. We think it's going to look like this, so start getting kind of yourself organized, start trying to collect this data, because you're going to have to do it in the near future. So you might as well get your systems kind of that. You might as well start the conversations, you might as well get your team and your suppliers used to being requested this data. So that's kind of a big point of this exercise, but also of years and years and years of doing the same exercise, not just in the UK but around the world, because change can happen very quickly in government. Change can happen a lot slower in organizations. It's very difficult to suddenly go from, I'm sorry, you can't do that bit of plastic anymore on the market. Well, hold on a minute, I need time to adapt, time to change, time to test what alternatives are there. So that's kind of why it is nice and important. Okay, so in terms of kind of the kind of the point of the exercise, if you like, point of the trial, we're going to be trying to collect your kind of soft plastics data. Now, hopefully a lot of this information you'll have. If not, there's tools and kind of services we can offer to kind of help you do it. So we're going to be asking kind of what activity you are, which I'll go through in all of this in a bit more detail as the slides go by. But whether you're a brand owner or an importer, we want it split between kind of primary consumer, primary non-consumer. So primary consumer is basically, is it going to end up in a household bin, or is it going to end up in a business bin? That's the definition. Secondary would be what your primary outers would sit in, and then transit is your kind of just your pallet wrap, shrink wrap, shrouds, things like that. The plastic that you would use to kind of wrap around your pallet. The types of material, well, as obviously it's all plastic, it's all soft plastic, and it's just split between the plastic grades. But we are asking for colour as well. Again, we're going into a bit more detail into why we're asking for colour too. But it's quite detailed. It's not just plastic. When I started at Valpak, it was in the UK, it was just plastic. Didn't matter what plastic polymer it was. Didn't matter anything else. Hello.
I'm not sure what that was, but I think you can ignore it and continue.
Okay, sorry, throw me off. Where was I? So yeah, yeah, in the UK when I started, it was just purely plastic, just one line for plastic. But now that's evolved to all the different plastic types, all the different plastic colours. Why? Because of kind of each different colour, each different type of plastic has kind of, well, can it be recycled, can it not be recycled type thing. So it helps evolve with the cost. So it's making sure that in the UK now, if people are putting plastic onto the market that can't easily be recycled or can't be recycled at all, they're paying a kind of a higher fee to those producers who are putting plastic onto the market that can easily be recycled. So it's that kind of information. So in terms of what the submission form looks like, I appreciate it's quite small on this form, but I wanted to kind of put it all on one slide. And like I say, you will be sent kind of this form guidance and kind of examples as well of what to go where. So essentially, it's just a form, simple looking form. What can be any of the issues in gathering this data? So, but it is kind of split between, like I say, the different levels of plastic. We're only collecting kind of plastic at this stage for this trial. However, as part of the different materials and different services we can offer, we can collect all of the different material you place on the market, depending on what you want to do with it. So a lot of our businesses have always been kind of giving us above and beyond the information that's actually required for either the legislation or for kind of trials or government input. Why? Because they want to use that data for their sustainability reporting. They want to use that data to be able to make kind of environmental pledges. They just want to use it because it's interesting. They want to know, well, actually, how much, if I'm putting soft plastic on the market, how much other material am I putting onto the market? So lots of different options in that respect, but for the purpose of this trial, the main request is the soft plastics. You can see on the form we've kind of asked for colour. Now this is a thing that's kind of not just in the UK, not just in Europe, it's kind of a global thing, asking for colour. Why? Because different colour plastics have different kind of recycling rates. So understanding what different plastic goes onto the market in terms of colour can help determine the fees. For example, a really classic example, black plastic. Companies putting black plastic onto the market, typically it can't be recycled. It doesn't get through the kind of the automatic machines. Black plastic goes automatically whizzed off somewhere else. So they kind of would have a typical higher fee than someone who's putting kind of clear mono plastic onto the market. So understanding the types of colour of plastic is important, and hence why we're asking for that information during this process. In kind of this split, when you saw the table, it's split between a producer and importer. So just a couple of definitions. Again, all this information will be kind of clearer with examples when we kick this off and kind of send to yourselves. So a producer is a member who's obligated, if they are the brand owner or manufacturer of the product packaging or soft plastic packaging placed onto the New Zealand market. Whereas an importer is someone who is importing kind of products or plastic packaging into New Zealand, who would then sell on to a wholesaler who might then sell on to the retailers. So they're kind of the first person to take legal ownership of the packaging or the products around. So the packaging around the products as they enter the country. So there's kind of two definitions there. And then you kind of got kind of the consumer and non-consumer. So in the UK, we call this household and non-household. It's exactly the same definition, if you like. So it's, if I'm putting packaging onto the market, soft plastics onto the market, where's it going to end up once it's been finished with? Is it going to end up in the household, bin, household recycling kind of collection, in which case it's primary consumer, or is the packaging that I put onto the market destined only for business to business use, if you like? So it's not going to end up in my bin or Lynn's bin or Craig's bin. It's kind of is destined only for kind of ending up in the kind of the business waste stream. Again, this is something that's always been collected both in the UK and in Europe. Why? Typically because they have different fee rates. If it's kind of business, what I call business waste, if you like, or B2B kind of waste, typically that's always managed by in its own little system. You know, businesses have to already pay to have that kind of removed or recycled, whereas the household is kind of covered in a different angle. So we've always had this data split out between kind of household and non-household. So that's exactly why we're asking for the same principles. In terms of kind of how we kind of see this process going, everything looks very simple on it and in graphs and slides, but kind of how the process would kind of work from our end is you're going to be looking at kind of sales or purchase data, whichever is easiest. There's never right or wrong way when you're looking at kind of data. You know, sales and purchases, sales or purchases, doesn't matter. Make your life as easy as you can and kind of pick whichever one's easiest for yourselves. We're going to need to obviously know the weights of that packaging. We will then kind of look and put that packaging onto the form. We will look at your submission, and then this is where Marcus kind of comes in. We don't, we're untrust. We kind of don't trust anything and everything that we see. So we kind of check and verify that data. We don't just, please don't take this the wrong way. We do this for 2,000 people in the UK too. That we don't just take your word for it and accept your data, whatever you submit to us. We will kind of go through that data with you, making sure that everything's in the right boxes, the right form. Why? Because it's really important if we're going to do something, to kind of have accurate data. So don't take this the wrong way. If Marcus kind of books in a call with you, I'll say, oh, please kind of go through your data. Doesn't mean you've done anything wrong, doesn't mean you're any mistakes. It's just standard practice for us that we kind of go through this data. When we collect weights, part of our role is to collect kind of packaging weights for large retailers in the UK. So we'll reach out to kind of 10,000 of their suppliers to gather all the packaging weights. We do exactly the same process with those as well. We don't necessarily ring all 10,000, but we kind of check their weights off. We don't just take kind of data as kind of gospel once it's been submitted to us, because same old adage, rubbish data in, kind of rubbish data out. So that's the last thing any of us need. So that's why we go through kind of the checking process. So we will then accumulate all the submitted kind of data, and we'll then kind of share that with the packaging form, so they can then use that for their kind of aid that as for their kind of the next step in the process. I've kind of already kind of covered this, but kind of this is where Marcus comes in. He will kind of review the data, check the data, but also kind of then if it kind of things change, if we do this again, kind of we've got that on record then going, right, in 2025 you had this much, in 2026 you got this much. Why is there such a big increase? Why is there such a big decrease? So you can kind of build a bit of a picture up in terms of data swings. To be honest, there should always be data swings. It's almost more worrying when your data stands exactly still and there's absolutely no changes in your tonnages or kilograms placed onto the market. So there's always going to be changes. It's just having that kind of audit trail, if you like, to explain why things have gone up, down, left, or right. So that was kind of the kind of the form itself that we're going to be kind of filling in. So simple enough, right? In terms of what we're asking, but we also appreciate that there's a lot of hard work and a lot of effort that has to go into kind of filling in a form. So there's two tools that we developed with the kind of the packaging forum. One that we're going to go through, which is my colleague Izzy's going to go through, which is the Ready Reckoner. So it's an alternative way of providing us data to get to those tonnages, and I will then touch on a kind of what we call our fully outsourced data submission, which a lot of the large retailers use, just to kind of give you a bit of a flavour that there is other help out there too in terms of that. So Izzy, I'll hand over to you and just tell me when you need the next slide.
Hey, Fab. Hi everyone, thanks Tom. So just a little bit of a background to me before I talk you through the Ready Reckoner. So I've been at Valpak just under 7 years, and I have primarily worked in our data department. So that database that Tom mentioned which we call Epic. I've worked quite closely in collecting weights for that and collating and calculating packaging submissions for our UK customers. And recently I've moved into our service development team, and so me and the team have developed this Ready Reckoner for you guys. Next slide, please, Tom. Okay, so what is a Ready Reckoner? So this is a calculation tool that we have created, which uses our database and packaging data, as well as a few assumptions to provide a quick, consistent and reliable packaging submission. So what this tool will do is it will take your sales quantities that you will input, you'll answer some questions, and then it will take all of the data within our database that we've assessed, and it will provide you with reliable estimates, which will then go into that packaging form that Tom has shared with you. So it will draw on our data resources that we've collected. So we've gone through a number of different product categories, which I'll share in the next slide. And we've reviewed the estimated average weights that we're going to put on each category, and that's broken down by polymer type and by color. So for an example, if you've got a category of bacon, we have assessed all of the weights within Epic that would fall under that category. And then we've had a look at those soft plastic weights. We've also had a look at the most common polymer, the most common color, and we've created an average weight that can be used if it's something that you need help with. So this tool is primarily there for you to use if you don't have a database to draw accurate weights on and you need a good place to start. Next slide, please, Tom. So the first step, sorry if this is quite small, like Tom said, there will be kind of guidance on it once it's sent out. There will initially be a series of questions that need to be answered. So this will mainly be kind of use of added packaging in store, things like deli bags, bakery bags, if you're adding packaging kind of around pizzas or butchery items, and this is where you'll have the opportunity to kind of add in those weights if they're very specific to your business. There'll be other questions such as if you sell multi-packs or if you have a common plastic polymer that you know you use for your secondary or transit packaging. Otherwise, we will kind of have pre-populated answers that you can see here based on our database, but this is where you'd have an opportunity to kind of make your Ready Reckoners more specific to your business activities. Next slide, please, Tom. Okay, so once those questions have been answered, you'll then have to input the sales quantity. So I have put here that we think it's likely going to be March to March, but it is worth noting that kind of if, say, that's not possible and you can only do maybe 6 months worth of the year, then, you know, we're quite happy to take the sales quantities that you have, and we have methodologies in place where we can pro rata data or maybe look at the previous year to kind of help give you that full year view. Here is where you'll also split that data into those different activities that Tom mentioned earlier. So the producer, consumer and non-consumer, and then also those import quantities as well, if that's something that you need to input. It's worth noting here that we'll have to make sure that we're not double counting at any point, because this will affect the data that then is inputted into that submission form at the end. But there will be kind of help on hand, like Tom said, Marcus, and obviously my team as well, should there be any issues with kind of filling this section in. So the third slide is the submission form itself. Again, it's quite small, but it's just to give you an idea that what will happen is once you've inputted those sales, we will then be able to kind of use that data and the estimates that we've calculated, and it will give you those total tonnages, and it will automatically place it into the correct cell within that submission form. The weights used, you'll be able to review, and you will be able to kind of speak to the team if there is anything else that you'd like to change within that Ready Reckoner. But it's there to kind of give you a quick and consistent weights database to use if it's something that you don't have access to. I think those are all my slides. But yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Izzy. So kind of just kind of very quickly recap what we've got so far. So we've got the form that'll be sent out for you guys to kind of fill in yourself, just kind of populate the form. Also be helping guys how to do that. Option 2, if you like, is Izzy's Ready Reckoner, where you need to provide kind of the sales or purchase data, answer a few questions, and it'll kind of spit out the kind of tonnages for you. So obviously that won't be as accurate as you doing it yourself and gathering all your weights yourself, but it'll give you a really good indication of kind of your tonnages. So that's option kind of 2, both of which are kind of all part of the membership with the packaging forum type thing. So it's all kind of no additional kind of cost from our point of view. And then the third kind of element, which is slightly different, slightly bigger, slightly kind of more encompassing, if you like, but we wanted to kind of just mention it to yourselves, is our fully outsourced data service. So this is where in the UK it's like 600. So to give you an example, we've got 600 kind of clients for this out of 2,000 kind of members, if you like, or producers who kind of use our compliance services. So this is where kind of customers will come to us and go, right, I've got to fill in this form, don't know where to start, I haven't got any of the packaging weights, please can you kind of help me? So we kind of do this on a number of levels. Kind of go out, gather those weights, whether it's physical weighing or whether it's typically contacting suppliers to gather those weights. Now we obviously you are used to and well averse to collecting kind of all data, whichever data customers want. So we've been collecting kind of different polymer types, different types of packaging, whether it's laminated, whether it's for paper packaging, if it's FSC protected, all sorts of different data that don't really have kind of any kind of legal kind of they don't have any legal responsibility to collect that data, but they've been collecting that data for a while. Why? Because it fits in really nicely with their sustainability reports. It fits in really nicely with their kind of pledges. So people want to see how much packaging have we got onto the market. Where can I make changes? Okay, well, I want to know there's a ban coming on certain kind of packaging types in the UK. Okay, well, where's that packaging coming from? Which products is going to be affected? Which suppliers is it going to be affected? So it gives you a much more kind of insights into the kind of into the data. So this is kind of like another way of doing things that we've got, and like I say, it's really helped. Now these are, apologies, I haven't heard of all of these businesses, but these are kind of one of the top 3 kind of largest retailers in the UK, and with our help and kind of obviously their work too, is not just all us, this absolutely not, but with our data, giving them the insights to kind of see, okay, where can I make changes? Where can I make environmental improvements? Tesco managed to go, well, I don't need those 2.5 billion pieces of plastic packaging anymore. So they've kind of removed them from various different products. Morrison's has cut kind of 40% of its plastic over the last 9 years. Again, Morrison's is another large grocery retailer in the UK. And Aldi, which is certainly in Australia, I assume it's in New Zealand as well. But again, they've reduced kind of their all packaging, not just plastic, all of their packaging by 32%. So having that kind of data start point is almost like your kind of foundation, if you like. Okay, well, here's where I'm starting from. Here's where we want to get to as a business, kind of, and kind of Valpak kind of sit in the middle, if you like, to kind of helping with that data collection, data validation, but also with that data tracking and monitoring too. So there's kind of a different elements of it. Different customers have different requirements. Can it be recycled? Can it not be recycled? These can all be plugged in. So, for example, in the UK, we typically would use the oh, my mind's gone absolutely blank. Is it what method we use? It's not RAP, is it? It's help me out. It's the no, mine's gone blank. I have to. It's the kind of like the RAM assessment, but there's also the OPRL kind of modeling with like, can it be recycled, not be recycled, and that comes from kind of the curbside too. So we can do exactly the same. In other countries, once we've got that information, we can kind of plug that in and ask those questions kind of too. So lots of different data can be kind of collected. Sorry about my mind going blank there. But it kind of gives you a bit of a flavour of kind of the art of the possible, if you like. Now, we're certainly not saying everyone has to do this, far from it at all. That's not the purpose of the kind of this exercise, but it's just to show you kind of like, you know, the three different options that we've got depending on kind of your business requirements. There's help there. Then, you know, there's help and guidance there, and kind of we're here to help. Lynn's here to help. Craig, you know, and the team are all here to kind of help along this journey, because we want to make sure that, you know, the data we're collecting is good, it's accurate, and can be useful, you know, to kind of the next stages of this journey that you're finding yourselves on, a journey that we've kind of been on, seen before, and kind of got the t-shirt if you kind of like. So it's yeah, so it's helping along that journey. One things we always recommend, I mean, this is not changed in my 19 years of Valpak in terms of keeper methodology. It's still like kind of number one things that kind of happens. If you're kind of, you know, the unlucky one, if you like, who's kind of been tasked with filling in the kind of the form, keep a method, you know, keep kind of a method of how you've done it, keep your workings. You know, why? It basically helps on two fronts. A, it helps you kind of when you have to do this again. You know, well, where did I start? How did I do it last time? But also, if you move on in the organization, leave the organization, you kind of left that organization in a nice place that when they get the request going, oh yeah, Lynn did this last year, Lynn's not here anymore, I've got no idea how Lynn did it, great, then that organization is then put on the back foot. So having a methodology doesn't have to be all singing or dancing. It's just, you know, kind of, you know, treat it as a reminder to yourself on how you did something, and that's a really good start, because, you know, kind of this is a, well, used to a once a year job in the UK, now it's a twice a year job. In some countries in Europe it's monthly, so it's a real kind of different data have different frequencies, but it's like anything, reminding yourselves on how you did it, who you spoke to in that organization is a really kind of really important aspect that, like I say, hasn't changed in 19 years. That it's kind of, you know, it helps you, helps everyone else. And then just some of the resources. Obviously, we've already mentioned you've kind of got, you know, kind of Lynn on hand in terms of the New Zealand kind of kind of, you know, correspondent, if you like, or adopted team member of Valpak. But also you've also got kind of Marcus and his kind of team on hand. All their details will be kind of shared when we launch this too. But yes, okay, we're in the UK, so are we going to respond, you know, at kind of 3 in the morning? No, we're not, if I'm more likely, but we will respond the next morning when we're logged on. So there will be that bit of a lag, but for the purpose of this, we thought that'd be absolutely fine. But again, Marcus is more than happy to kind of jump on calls, booking kind of calls with you. It's early morning our time, or kind of late our time, which is obviously then kind of evening your time. We can work around that. So we do just, you know, kind of our little plea, if you like, is kind of you know, just bear with us with that one. Please don't expect a reply within, you know, kind of an hour. We are obviously in a different time zone, but we will respond, you know, the kind of our next working day, if you like. So that will be kind of our kind of caveat, if you like, but there will be lots of kind of guidance, lots of information kind of shared with you as well. So hopefully, you know, that will cover a lot of it. But yeah, we're a friendly bunch, kind of, we're very well averse to kind of, you know, answering questions. Old adage, no question is a silly question, because if you're thinking it, someone else might think it too. So our frequently asked questions will constantly kind of update it, or if there is any hits and tips or anything else that comes out, we can kind of share that with kind of the kind of Lynn and Craig to then share with the wider audience too, because it's a learning exercise, you know, it as well. It's a data gathering exercise. Is it going to be perfect first time? No, let's be honest, nothing's perfect ever, but it's kind of it's a start. It's an eye opener for what's kind of coming around the corner. So that's kind of the purpose of this. And then just to kind of give you a little bit of background on Marcus, he'll be the project manager for kind of this project. Marcus has been with us for kind of 5 years, and his responsibility in the UK is to kind of help look after our largest members. Customer service is everything for us, to be honest with you. Without customers, we don't have a service, so we kind of, it's our main service offering, if you like. So Marcus will kind of oversee the rollout, be on hand to kind of, for that support, coordinate with Izzy's team for things like the Ready Reckoner and the form checking. So kind of he'll be the kind of the quarterback or the front and center, or the main person here to kind of help kind of guide this and steer the ship in the right direction for this project. In terms of timeline, we're looking to kind of kick this off on the 1st of July. Doesn't mean we need your data by the 2nd of July, so don't panic. But what that means is we'll kind of give you all of the information, all of the kind of the table, the help, or the frequently asked questions, kind of all by the 1st of July, to then give you kind of time to kind of get the submission in by the 1st of October to us. Again, please don't just wait till the 1st of October and then go, here you go, and everyone gives the data on the same day. Kind of it's we always have a bit of a time gap to kind of, everyone's going to be different stages. Some people will be complete within the first month, some people will be back and forth. So it gives us that kind of time window, if you like, to kind of go back and kind of collect this information. Why? Because we want it all kind of complete by the end of back end of October, when we can accumulate all the tonnages together and then provide that to the packaging forum. So that's kind of the starting point. But like I say, it's, you're not just going to hear from us before July and that's it. That this is where the help at hand is always there. Lee and Marcus and Izzy and the team are there. Use that resource, ask the questions. Please we're here to help you. We know you're kind of asking you to do something that's a bit different, and so please use the resources available to make sure it's as smooth and pain-free as possible, to be honest with you. So that was kind of the kind of from our side, the kind of the overview in terms of kind of the different avenues of support there to kind of help you with this soft plastics kind of project. Okay, I think we all welcome any questions if there is any. I will stop sharing as well. So
thanks a lot, Tom and Izzy. There is a few questions in the chat that weren't answered yet, so maybe I can read those out. So there's one from Mal around the way you collect the data, which I think you explained, but maybe you could explain it a bit more. So the question is, could I understand the process as the member submits the packaging data or sales data for the system to make estimation? The system conducts due diligence checking. Check data will go to SPRS to calculate EPR fee. So I guess maybe just re-explain very briefly the Ready Reckoner version versus the full version, if you could.
Yeah, sure. So the kind of the data form is kind of is what it says on the tin. Is the form that we will ask you to kind of populate. Now, if you are populating that form, you will then send it back to Valpak, and Valpak will then check that. We don't just kind of have your form and put it aside and go, thanks very much. This is where kind of the Marcus team goes in. It's not an automated thing. It's a human at the end of the day. We are kind of getting there with kind of automated, but it's kind of, we still can't beat in all our time kind of actually picking up the phone, going through the form and asking those business related questions. Okay, kind of what sort of products are you putting onto the market? What's your kind of business flow? Okay, great. Well, I can see you've put the import tables in. Brilliant. I can see who do you sell to? I sell to online. Okay, so everything should be in the primary consumer line. So it kind of gives Marcus that story of your kind of business, which will then use that story to make sure your data reads like that story, if you like. If you said, yes, I only sell online, well, you shouldn't have anything in the kind of the primary non-household kind of category. So it kind of gives us that insights to be able to kind of check that process. Where kind of the Ready Reckoner comes in, so that is where we ask you kind of your sales and purchase data, and that's where Izzy kind of has those kind of preset questions, if you like. So then we kind of use your answers to that to help kind of produce the kind of tonnages. So it's the kind of, I don't want to say less accurate, because that's kind of, kind of bad English, but it's kind of the one where you have not done all the calculations yourselves. It's the one that we're kind of using it, as best guess, if you like, but it's best guess backed by 65 kind of 65 million different weights. So you would kind of get that. But again, we'd go through the output with you too. We wouldn't just go, oh yeah, give us your sales data, answer a few questions, that's you kind of done. It's your data at the end of the day, it's your tonnages, so it's important that you understand kind of what that output is. So when Izzy's kind of team have got that output, we will then also speak to you and go, well, look, this is what we've done. We've taken your sales data, we put it into our system, and it's produced the kind of these kind of kgs kind of at the end of it for you. You kind of, this is what the story is telling us. Do you agree with that? Is that exactly what your business is doing? So again, there's that validation piece there too, because it's going to have your name assigned to it. You want to make sure you're crystal clear kind of, okay, well, what am I submitting? So each process kind of has the kind of the validation piece in, but validation piece with a human, if you like, because it's all about storytelling and kind of does your business activity match up to the storytelling of your data too? Because it's the best way in all our time of how to do this in terms of the kind of business activities. Do they match the kind of the output, if you like?
Yeah. And then there was a couple of other questions from Haley that I think weren't quite answered. So one was, can I clarify this is just for soft plastics? What do we do with things like oxygen grabbers? I guess that means oxygen scavengers, paper inclusions in the bags, etc. So yes, someone else asked that further up. And the scope of gathering this data to begin with is for soft plastics, but we might expand later on if it's really successful. I suppose that answers the question. I guess part of the question is, what if there's other components and mix them with the soft plastics? How would we manage that?
Yeah, is there perhaps what we need in there as well, Valpak team, is a sort of other line? I mean, we are primarily, I mean, the reason we're focusing on soft plastics is obviously we're a soft plastics recycling scheme, so it's it's those materials that we're particularly concerned about. I think we probably just need to work out whether the components, Haley, are an integral part of the pouch or bag, as opposed to an insert or something different. So, for example, we know that if you have those squeezy yogurt pouches, they come with with the HD, they might be a polyethylene squeezy pouch, but they've got an HDPE spout on them. And we would take all of that and that would go through our recycling process with Future Post. So it will be the components. And I guess on that, how would we validate that within the system, Tom and team? Would that go as you'd put in, you've got 1 million yogurt pouches and the average weight of the polyethylene part is 10 grams and the average weight of the spout is 5 grams, and that would calculate your pouch. Is that how it would work?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, so all our data is at component level. Exactly that. If different polymer types or different materials, that would be kind of split out, because it's otherwise you're just lumping all in one, which is not correct. So yeah, we kind of collect data at kind of component level. So we would have a separate weight for the cap compared to the kind of the pouch itself.
Yeah, and then there was another question. I think James mostly answered it, but it was also from Haley. Can your system separate what is recyclable in New Zealand versus Australia? And I think you're saying you can apply what's recyclable per territory. I suppose the question's coming, quite a common one probably for the members, is that most companies place product on market in Australia and New Zealand, but the recycling rules are sometimes different. So is that workable within the Valpak database system to apply those differences?
I think it's probably that this is a placed on market. So We're not actually looking at whether it's recovered or not. If you're placing it on the market, we may recover it through the soft plastics recycling scheme, or we may not. But this is the first part of it. So this is what you are placing on the market in soft plastic, rather than whether it's recycled or not in country. That's a separate part of it, which we collect the data from our recyclers and reprocessors about how many, because we pay a gate fee, as many of you know, so we pay effectively a processing fee. So we pay out the reprocessors based on the tons they have processed. So we know how many tons were processed, but we wouldn't necessarily know whether it was sort of a Pam's product or a Woolworths product or a Nestle product or whatever. We just know it was we reprocess around 1,000 tons a year. But this part of it is about the price on the market. So it's the first component part, and we'll have to work out how we collect that recovery data. There's a question there as well, I see, and I think it was around how we're using this to calculate membership fees. Well, in the first instance, we're just trying to get a handle on what is placed on the market by our members in total, because we think we have an idea based on the work that was done through the PPPS and the component parts of that were soft plastics. But that may be way off beam. We don't really have any idea. So before we actually get to calculating what a fee might look like, we have to actually understand what our total, currently our membership is placing on the market. And then as we move into a mandatory system, what the total market looks like in these materials. So this is a sort of phase one. And one of the things that, having that data set come in by October, which Tom has talked about in the timeline, will give us some of that information that we can start using when we start looking at calculating fees going forward. And for a while, there'll be a bit of a hybrid system, because we've got in our membership, and Craig talked about, we've got 195, 200 members of soft plastics. Probably 60% of you are producers placing something on the market, and then we have a balance that are packaging manufacturers. So under a mandatory system would not be the liable parties for this. It would be the brand owners and the retail brands placing product on the market. But we also have a whole host of different companies. We've got retirement villages, we've got banks, we've got insurance companies, we've got some of your offices where people become a member because they want a collection service, and so they're not actually putting anything on the market, they're just a member. So we'll still have those sort of membership approaches as well, won't we, Craig, to manage this. It's a transition phase, really. I guess that's what we can call it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that question from Mau is there a timeline for EPR and when mandatory might come in? There's not a known exact timeline yet, but this is a really important sort of stepping stone, as Lynn explained. We would need to get ready, and so we're sort of front footing that by helping members do the work to know accurately how much they're placing on market for soft plastics, and then that will also help us more accurately and equitably set the fees for next year while we're still under this really voluntary industry-led scheme. So, yep. Jackie's got a question there, Lynn. So for food contact branded packaging, it seems the only two categories will be 7A or 7B. Will the info pack include detail on thresholds for category inclusion? How will metallization, inks, adhesives, etc. be considered? That's maybe a question for Valpak. Do you go to that level of detail?
Yes, but I guess it's part of what the kind of for this. Do we want to go to the level of detail? I don't know. I can't. Let me work on that one. But what I would say is, if there are questions and examples, if that can kind of be sent to the kind of Craig and Lynn, we could kind of then use that ready for our kind of frequently asked questions, kind of packs, if you like. So we kind of then got that in advance. So I'd encourage all of you, if there is kind of, what about this, what about that, you know, what does this mean, if there are those sort of questions, please kind of send them over, because we can get them answered, but also we can then include those in, obviously anonymized, obviously include those in the FAQ, so we've kind of got that information, because there will be a lot of questions kind of here. It's here kind of it's a project that we've kind of put together, but there's obviously always going to be nuances. There's always new kind of different types of packaging. That's the same in you know, kind of in the UK and globally. There's always the anomalies, if you like, that we kind of have to work out together, I'm afraid. So I don't have a rock solid answer to that one, I'm afraid, but you know, keep them coming in, because it's really good to know kind of know where we stand.
I think just to add to that, when you're looking at the packaging components, we kind of, when we're looking at putting it into the form, when we do like data submissions for other members, we look at kind of that predominant polymer. I think for this form, we're not yet going into kind of adhesives and inks. That we can collect that as a data service, but when putting it into the form, it's looking at that predominant polymer for that component. So if you're kind of looking at a mixed one, that's where that category 7 would come in. But if you're able to split that component weight into PE versus HDPE, then that's how you would put that on the form there. You kind of split that weight up and put it into the different cells within the form. Just to add to that.
There's a couple of questions there I'm seeing about whether there's a charge for this service, and happily, as a member of the scheme, the scheme will be paying Valpak to do those first 2 parts. So collate the information that you send in either via your completed questionnaire and spreadsheet that says you've got 6 tons of this and 10 tons of that and 5 tons of the other, or your ready reckoner service where you say I've got 1 million of these bags and it'll calculate it for you. The only additional charges would be the service that Tom mentioned, where you think, look, this is all too complex, it's really complicated, and we'd actually just like somebody to do this for us. And at that point, you know, you could go and talk to Valpak team about the service they might offer you and what that might cost. But the first 2 services that we've talked about are part of your membership fee for soft plastics, and we believe it's going to be a value add for our members.
Yeah, and I would encourage members that want to build up their data to utilize that, because it is not an additional cost. And the Ready Reckoner, is, I think Tom explained, it's backed by a huge amount of data that Valpak have built up in the UK. So it's really kind of a modelling service, you could say, to build up a pretty accurate view of what your specs are and what you're placing on market. So yeah, that's, I think, a valuable thing to take up. I think we're bang on time. Yep. And there wasn't any further questions that I see, so I think we're good to wrap up there.
So yeah, so next steps, what we'll be doing is obviously sending out this webinar recording, a summary of questions, and what we also want to do then with not just the people on this meeting now, but our wider membership who are in the producer category, is to actually go and check in with you what type of service you'd be looking for from this. Are you confident that you've got the information because you're currently doing something similar with APCO, or would you be using the Ready Reckoner, just so that we get a sense check of the different membership requirements?
Right.
Very good. Thank you, Valpak. Thank you to all the members that joined, and Lynn and the other PF team members, including Kasun, who helped out in the background. So very good. See you guys soon.
Thanks, team.
Thanks all.
Thank you very much.
Bye.